Bye.
Bye.
Well, I threatened to go, but I'll hang on for a bit.
Yeah.
And I won't make a fuss when I have to go. I shall just quietly disappear.
Will you really?
In a puff of smoke.
Well, I wonder whether, in fact, it would be nice to invite Wahiba to share a few words about the ICT this morning. It's a bit earlier than we'd provisionally made it, but as you've joined us early, that is flexible. So, Wahiba, if most of you will have met her at a previous visit to the club. She's no stranger to the Rotary Club. And indeed, we're very, very grateful to Rotary clubs around the country and also inner wheel clubs around the country who have supported the work of ICT over many, many years, a lot of them. So it must feel like coming home, really, when you're with the Rotary group, Wahiba. You don't belong to one in West London, do you?
No.
I'm surprised.
Ken, before Wahiba starts,
yes.
Can we all mute ourselves?
Oh, right. Yes.
And I shall record this section.
Oh, right. Okay. And we welcome Paula as well, who manages our sponsorship program. She does more than that, actually, but as a volunteer, and we're tremendously grateful for the work that she does and the respect she gains for that work. And so welcome to you as well, Paula, this morning.
Thank you.
Right, I'm going to mute myself then and hand over to Wahiba for a presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Kevin, can I share screen? I don't know if I have. No. If you can give me the right to share. So this is your screen at the moment.
Yeah, it was Janet. Oh. Right.
So I don't know if you can give me that right.
Yeah. I'm getting instruction from Janet.
Okay.
Yeah, that should work.
Let me check. Yes, I can do it now. Okay. Okay. So for those who were here last week, so maybe it's going to be a bit repetitive, but otherwise, let's start. Can you all see it? Yes, can you see the screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's start. So basically, so thank you for your invitation this morning. I'm very happy to be here with you today. So I wanted to give you an update about the International Children Trust and about what we've been doing since the beginning of the pandemic. And I thought I would use pictures in this case that might be more speak better than words. So in this first slide, these are pictures really from the early stages of the pandemic, really beginning of March, and then the first 3-4 months since the whole story started. So these are pictures of different projects that we have. And in these early stages of the pandemic, really, what we had to do is to put on hold our core business, which is really helping children and their families through education, through health, kind of psychosocial programs, etc., but really focusing on more basic needs for them during these times. So, for example, if we look at the first, on the left side, at the first two pictures, these are pictures from our project in Burkina Faso. And they're really, it's near the capital, Ouagadougou. We work with street kids and we help street children there. And really because street kids rely on, to survive, they are street vendors. So they sell all kind of goods on the street. But when the lockdown started, even locally, they were left without any source of income, and they were extremely vulnerable. So the idea at the beginning was really to see how we could set up a whole logistic and being able to support them by delivering food, so make sure they received food, but also by, if you can see on the picture, by installing water points. So we could inform them about what was COVID and how they could be safe or keep themselves safe from the virus. So by distributing to them hygiene kits, so masks, gloves, etc. So this was that kind of first intervention at the beginning. And if we move more on the right, on the top there, this is a picture of a mother coming to one of our distribution center in Mexico with our partner Juconi there, because again, these are families very vulnerable who rely on informal economy, so they could work in the market, but with lockdown in place, these kinds of places such as markets were closed. And once again, these are not families with savings, and it's really not being able to have any kind of money. And if you do not have any kind of money, you cannot put food on the table. So Juconi Mexico, they've again put on hold a bit their core activities and really focused more on how they could make sure that the families and children we were working with were receiving food. And the other pictures are from our project in Ecuador. So again, vulnerable families living in slums. And in the case of Ecuador, people were not even allowed to go out. So the challenge was to see how we could deliver directly food at these families' homes. And basically, we've been able to do it through the military in Ecuador. So this is really the first part of the pandemic, really putting on hold our main activities and seeing how we can continue to support these families in more kind of survival initiatives. And then once the whole logistic was under control and we have been able to put everything in place to do this, then we could move a bit more forward. So, oops, sorry. So in the following months, then once basic needs were met, so the question basically that we had to raise with our partners is how we could ensure continuity of learning of the children during these challenging times, and making sure that we can keep them safe as well. So on the first picture, bottom left, this is a picture from a school for orphan children in Zimbabwe, and this is the school actually that the Rotary Club of Coventry is supporting, and they were in need of a new textbooks to be able to having the material in line with the new curriculum, the new national curriculum. So thanks to you, basically, we've been able to buy these books. We've been able to buy new furniture for the school as well. So we know from our partner in Zimbabwe the situation. So they went to lockdown, and the children had been unable to attend school for 7 months, but then the situation improved, and we know that from November to December, they've arranged a phased return to school. But the last update that we have from them is since the beginning of January. So there is a surge in COVID-19 cases in Zimbabwe once again, and the government decided to go back to a full lockdown. So schools are closed once again in Zimbabwe at the moment. But we continue, of course, the fact that schools are closed doesn't mean that we do not continue to keep in touch with the children, either by asking children to go once a week to the school, to meet with their teachers, and then to pick some work, return some work to them, and pick up some new work. So there is a kind of continuity in learning. And this another picture that we can see just on the right, it's a picture of our project in Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka, we support a preschool for vulnerable children. So in Sri Lanka, that's the same. Preschools and schools were closed. Then when the situation, and even the situation around the world, seems to be improving, schools reopened. But once again, by the end of the year, 2020 actually, the government decided to close once again preschools and schools to reduce the effects of the second wave of COVID-19. But as you can see on this picture, this is the kind of continuity or the kind of intervention that I was speaking about. It's a teacher going so this is a girl who's going to our preschool, but because the preschool is closed, the teacher is going to these children's homes and ensure that there is a continuity in terms of education. So this is done on a regular basis. On top center, so this is a picture from our project in India. So in India, it seemed that the situation was improving, and schools were expected to open this week, actually, or last week, I would say. But I just received this morning a notification from our partner saying that they had new cases of COVID-19 in their communities, and therefore schools will not reopen as planned. So it's very complex and difficult at the moment to, kind of planning ahead. But the objective is to keep in contact with these children. So for this project in Bihar, in India, actually, we support the reintegration of 20 children into mainstream education. So these are children from families of migrant workers, so workers who were working in Delhi before the pandemic. But because of COVID-19, they lost their job and they had to return home with no work or not, and no expectations of or perspective of any work any soon. So the idea is to sustain an income generating scheme for these families and ensure that the children are reintegrated into school. And on that day, we saw some of them on the picture because we've distributed some school supplies to them. So bottom center, more or less center. At the bottom, you can see these boys. This is a picture from a project in Mexico where we work with street connected children. And this is a health and hygiene basically facility for them. And we can see, so during these times, they can have access to this facility, wash their clothes, and we can again raise awareness about COVID-19 and preventative measures for them. So in terms of update in Mexico, the situation is quite complicated. And in Puebla, so this is the city when we are operating, it's a bit more complicated as well. And that's why a new lockdown was imposed. And at the moment, there's no date on when the lockdown will be eased. So top right, this is a Zoom online session with children from the project in Ecuador. So when there is a possibility, because usually all these families and children we are working with, they do not have access to remote they do not have access to remote learning or to internet. So usually it's home visits or it's telephone, using telephone as well. But in some cases here, with a limited number of children, we've been able to keep in contact via using Zoom, basically. So these are children that really live in quite violent communities. So it is very important to keep in contact with them and continue the work that we're doing with them and their families as well. So in Ecuador, I received actually this week some news from them. So they said that there's no clarity about vaccines. So no one is saying anything about vaccines at the moment there. But it seems that COVID is still active, but more or less under control. So to reduce basically the spread or the risk of spreading COVID, what they've done is for their staff, for example, is to put at disposition of their staff a transport. So they use vans, so they can pick up staffs and then drive them home at the end of the day, so to limit that, and using very specific suits. So actually they were saying that staff wear biosecurity suits with anti-fluid material, actually, and the use of alcohol. So they really try to use all kind of putting in place all kind of security measures to be able to continue their work with the children. And for the last picture, so this picture from a village that we support. That's a village for street girls and their children. So these are or former now street mothers with their kids. So again, trying to make sure that hygiene and preventative measures are put into place to keep them safe. And the situation in Burkina Faso at the moment is deteriorating, which is what just the last news that I have received from our partner as well, that there is, so the spread of the virus within communities has increased, and since the month of December, and the government continued to raise awareness about preventative measures, but that's true that the partners saying that, you know, in this environment, so even in Burkina Faso, people socializing is very important. People live together in groups, in numbers. So social distancing is challenging. And as well, there's no mention of any vaccination campaign or vaccines. even though, I mean, yeah, the team remain optimistic that this will happen at some point. So yes, so this is a bit of an overview of the different projects and how we've been dealing with the situation with our partners since the beginning of the pandemic. And yes, so I think so. So we have set a children's COVID-19 relief fund, and actually I just want to end on this last picture, which is very recent work that we've done, and this is actually with the Bournemouth North Rotary Club. So they are the ones supporting these initiatives. So we have built from scratch a nursery school for the children of these street girls living in the village. And this is, so you can see materials, furniture, equipment that was purchased for the nursery school. And recently, if you look at the playground, so thanks to the Bournemouth Rotary Club, we've been able to cover this playground so the children could play safely in the shade. So yes, I would say this is the more recent project or initiative that we've been able to do. Yes. So the COVID-19 relief funds, we have been using it, and actually the first contributions that was received through the funds help us to help the street kids in Burkina Faso, because they were living on the street. The idea was for them to be able to go to centers, but the drop-in centers didn't have the capacity at the time to absorb suddenly a higher number of street kids. So we helped this center to strengthen their capacity, actually. So that's more or less the situation at the moment. So if you want to help, you can do that going on our website or using Ken's fundraising page on GoFundMe.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Wahiba, for that overview of the work. And I think it's true to say that, like so many charities, we're finding it a great struggle to bring in income to sustain the work. It's very challenging to us because a lot of fundraising that normally goes on has not been possible. And this is a bit of an experiment for our Rotary Club, I think, and to be able to do virtual fundraising in this sort of way, and we're very grateful for your presentation. We are hampered in our support through lack of resources, so every donation we receive is tremendously helpful to assist these children in very difficult circumstances. Sometimes photographs actually belie the background as to how difficult life is just to survive, whether it be by having access to water or having hygiene, whether you've got a roof over your head or whether you've got food on the table. And one of the distinctivenesses of ICT, which you have heard Wahiba refer to partners, we don't put our own team or staff into the locations that we work in. We work with local partners, which helps them build capacity for their particular organization. So it's an holistic style of approach to help themselves, but with the guidance and support of us, providing good material, good advice, supervision, and monitoring of the work. And we're very thankful that we're over 50 years old in that particular program of activity. Some countries it is more difficult to work in now, partly because of politics. And in India, for instance, they have declared that they are self-sufficient to look after their own population, when all our partners are absolutely distraught because of lack of resources to maintain the work. And it's heartbreaking for organizations like ICT, who have been supporting different partners in that continent, not to be able to continue it. And amongst them, many years ago, was a guy called Chandru Kumar, who was leader of the Boys Town Club under the Rotary Club of Chennai, as one of our partners. And the Inner Wheel Club have had the Barbara Kelly home, which they've supported for a generation, maybe 2 generations. And sadly, Barbara Kelly's organization has now been disbanded, and the work is still there. And through our sponsorship program, we have been able to sustain some work, but not as much as when we had access to grants from DFID and Comic Relief and other external funding. So there's more and more reliance upon giving by smaller organizations like Rotary clubs and individual donations. So thank you, Wahiba, for that. And if anyone's got any questions, would you like to raise them with Wahiba or Paula?
You want me to say?